Good evening, I'm Sarah Adams and welcome to Ask the Specialists. Tonight we ask the Realtors here on CMU Public Television. Good evening and thanks so much for tuning in to CMU Public Television this evening. I am Sarah Adams and you're watching Ask the Realtors here, the show where we take your questions for our guests this evening. We want to remind you that phone number to call is 1-800-727-9268 or send us a tweet at WCMU_AskThe or write your question on our Facebook page, facebook.com/AskTheSpecialists. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Without further delay, let's meet our guests that are here this evening. Randy Golden, you are with RE/MAX of Mount Pleasant Incorporated. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what our viewers can ask of you this evening.
Well, I think every day that you go into the office is a different set of tasks coming at you. General real estate questions, listing, selling, putting your house on the market, values, prices, general real estate questions.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here tonight.
Sure, thank you.
And we also have with us Robin Stressman with Coldwell Banker, Mount Pleasant Realty and Associates. Robin, thanks for your presence tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what is it that you do and what can our viewers ask of you tonight?
You can ask us general questions and hopefully we know the answer, and if we don't, we'll find out.
Okay, wonderful. Well, again, that phone number, 1-800-727-9268. Tweet at WCMU_AskThe or visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/AskTheSpecialists. We have a couple calls coming in, so let's get to those right away. A question about purchasing a second residence. Is this a good investment? If I buy one, should I improve and resell or should I rent it? What are your thoughts, first of all, on purchasing a second residence? Is that a good investment? And then once they've purchased it, what can they do with that?
I think any purchase at this point is a good investment. We're near the bottom of the market if we haven't hit the bottom of the market. Yeah, I mean, if you buy right, second residence is a good investment.
And what kinds of things can they do with it once they have it?
Certainly enjoy it. And, you know, I wish I had lots of money to be buying lots of investment properties right now. And then something I always encourage people to do is certainly to talk to their tax advisor, too.
So this is a good time to be purchasing property if you are available, if you can. You said that a big topic right now is short sales and repos. What's going on with the market and where are we at with short sales and repos?
Well, I think that it varies all around the state from market to market to market. Robin and I obviously work the Central Michigan market. We're a bit slower to develop than the rest of the state. Short sales is a big item in a lot of other areas. It's beginning to be a big item here. Foreclosures, we hope, are slowing down. We're hoping that we don't see that number of foreclosures that we've seen.
And what about, is the economy bouncing back when it comes to home buying and selling?
And we're hoping certainly that we've leveled off. You know, we've saw an improvement last year over the year before. And, you know, with the short sales and repos, it's great if you're a buyer to certainly be investing in those. But again, talk to your tax person and, you know what's right for you.
Okay. A caller wondering, what is eminent domain?
Eminent domain is I did a grad paper on that. Eminent domain is the taking of land by a governmental entity for the public use.
Okay. Caller bought a modular, no title. It's a foreclosure. What's a good way to get the title for the property? A caller from Mansalona.
If it's a modular, there shouldn't be a title. So if they bought a titled home, there'd be a title, or it was retired if it's titled. But if it was a modular, there shouldn't be a title to get.
Okay.
And if it's a manufactured and there is a lost title, they would go to the Secretary of State's office and apply for a lost title.
Much like a car?
Yeah,
or
exactly,
okay.
precisely.
Okay. From a seller's point of view, what are the benefits and detriments of selling a land contract U.S. mortgage? Or a land contract? Does that ring any bells?
I don't know who U.S. Mortgage is.
Okay.
Do you have any? I think what the seller's doing is that they've sold their property on a land contract or considering selling their property on a land contract, and they have an investor that wants to buy that land contract from them.
Oh, actually it says a land contract versus a mortgage. So what are the benefits and detriments of buying and selling?
That person writes like I do.
From a seller standpoint, if the seller carries a land contract, the seller's going to act as the bank. The seller's going to get principal and interest payments over a period of time. They're going to get the interest revenue. That's the upside. The downside is there's a risk involved that the buyer's going to default, that they're going to get the property back in worse shape than they sold it, and there's risk.
Okay.
And this is an opportunity for us to say also that, there's, like he said, there's risk, but it's also a time for the buyer and the seller to talk to an attorney.
Okay. And you mentioned that a lot of times you'll get questions from people that actually should be directed to an attorney. So that's something to be
And for both
aware of.
sides, for the buyer and the seller. Both of them ought to talk to an attorney
So what
about
is
it.
your role in the home buying process? You're sort of a mediator. You take people step by step.
It depends on who we're working for. Sometimes we work for the seller, sometimes we work for the buyer, sometimes we're a dual agent.
Okay.
And it's always disclosed who we're working for.
Okay. More calls coming in. Thank you so much for your calls this evening. A caller from Claire. What is the difference between an IRS approved appraisal or a Realtor appraisal?
Typically, realtors don't do appraisals. Appraisers do appraisals. Realtors will do a market analysis for you. They won't arrive at I think by definition, they don't arrive at a value. They arrive at a probable selling price. If you need an appraisal for IRS purposes, then you should go and hire an appraiser.
Caller from Hillman. When you buy property, how deep do you own that property? I guess the caller uses the example of, do you own it all the way to China? But how deep?
Halfway to China.
How far down into the ground can you go? It sounds like maybe a mineral rights question.
Yeah, by definition, you'd own to the center of the earth.
Wow, good to know.
And then sometimes you don't own the mineral rights too.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
like sometimes, like if somebody owns 40 acres, sometimes they're excluded also.
Okay, so
So-
it's something they should. So then, if they needed to dig a pit or something like that, they would have those rights. They just couldn't mine.
They may have mining rights.
Okay.
Now you're getting into zoning issues.
Okay, and so that's an attorney question.
But yeah, the minerals may or may not have been severed
Okay.
in the past.
Okay.
And you can have a mineral search completed by a title company. Relatively expensive process.
Okay. Caller from Davison. Property is being sold for back taxes. Does the property owner have time to pay the taxes, or is it too late? Sounds like the sale process has begun.
It probably depends on at what point you are in that process.
Okay.
I believe the county takes, and that would be a county repossession for taxes, and I believe that you have until March 1st or 15th to redeem, and at this point you'd be redeeming your 2010 taxes.
Okay. Caller wants to know, if I have a primary residence and list it, then buy a second home, how long can I keep my principal residence exemption on the first home?
And different things come into play. For instance, they couldn't be renting it. There are different rules, and they should talk to their taxing authority about that.
Yeah, they should talk with their local assessor. You can get an exemption on the previous home, as long as it's vacant, it's never been rented, and it's listed for sale.
Okay. A lot of calls coming in.
Excuse me, and that has to be renewed
sorry.
yearly.
Renewed yearly.
Yes.
You mentioned when we talked before the show that tax laws will change some real estate transactions in the coming year, and that there's too many to note. But is that something people can talk to you guys about, or do they need to discuss that with their accountant or attorney?
I think they can certainly start by talking with their realtor. I think most of us, when we get to a point, it's time to talk with your accountant.
Okay. Question from Onaway. Can you stop people from trespassing on your property? Is that something that can be written into the title, or how does that work?
You can, but to stop somebody from trespassing, you may need assistance from a legal department. You may, in other words, a sheriff's department, state police, DNR, depends on the circumstances of when and how. But I would definitely contact law enforcement if somebody's trespassing.
Question then, you mentioned that there is a board of review coming up. What
Right.
exactly does that mean, and how can that benefit home buyers and sellers?
Yeah, tax board review is held every year by state law. It's held in March, typically the second week of March, and that's the one opportunity a year that homeowners, property owners, have the right to go in to their local taxing authority and appeal their assessed value or their taxable value. They'll be getting a notice of assessment change from their local assessor the end of February,
Okay.
and they have a very, very short period of time to turn that around, typically the second week of March.
Is there an advantage of a land contract versus rent to own from the seller's point of view?
That's probably opinion. It depends on your needs. You know, again, it's something I'd certainly consider talking to an attorney about, and you know, there's risk no matter what. There are a lot of things to take under consideration. Most sellers probably wouldn't do that, but you know, sometimes there is an advantage for both, and sometimes there's major disadvantage, particularly for the seller. But
Yeah, in both of those, there are a number of negotiable items in a land contract or a rent-to-own. How much of the rent's going to go toward a down payment? How much of the rent's going to go toward the principal outstanding? How much of the interest? You know, I mean, yeah.
Okay, caller from Kingston, a quick claim deed and how to go about getting it settled. Is that something to talk to the county seat, or do they go to an attorney? Sounds like they're wanting to get it settled and quickly.
usually there's no quick about it.
Yeah. Yeah, a quit, it's Q-U-I-T, quit claim deed, and it simply quits any claim to the property that you have. You may or may not have any ownership interest in it. For instance, you give me $10, I'll give you a quit claim deed to this building. It has no value. I own no part of this. So if you're getting a quit claim deed, you should have some assurance that the person giving it to you has an ownership interest.
Caller from Grand Haven, foreclosed home, no sign out front, but there are papers in the window. How do I get more information to purchase?
It's like the theme from Jeopardy. Foreclosure companies post the homes, to notify the public that it is being foreclosed. Typically, it's a wait game. You wait for it to hit the market.
Okay.
You can call the banks. Some of the banks, the national banks, the mega banks, they have no idea they even have the property. It's posted. You know that it's coming on. Continue to watch it, and.
Now, is that something they can go through a realtor to obtain, or do they need to just...
I don't have any more information on that house than you do at this point.
Okay.
People get really frustrated with us because exactly like the scenario the person just asked, they think we have information on it, and we honestly learn about it finally being available almost the same time they do. I mean, it may be listed, but you know, that could be tomorrow, or that could be 6 months from now, or a year from now, or a year and a half. So, you know, it'll be available finally when it's available, but the bank won't sell it before it's finally ready to be available. And people think that we're not checking on it. We can call the bank 50 times, and so can they, and it won't be sold before it's time, kind of thing.
Okay. Caller wondering, if I sell my home and purchase another, how long before I have to report my capital gains?
That's a question for your accountant,
Okay.
I would think.
And those rules have changed also in the last few years.
Continually.
Lots of changing
Yeah,
rules.
always.
So really, you're going to be coordinating quite a bit with your realtor, your attorney, and your accountant when you're
I think so.
getting all these things
when
done.
you're buying second homes, when you're buying investment property, you should be coordinated with your accountant.
Okay. Caller from Wexford County. Her and her husband are purchasing his dad's home on a land contract. How do I improve my credit to get a mortgage? Something that a lot of people may be asking with the economy being the way it's been in the past couple of years. What can be done to improve credit to get a mortgage or a better rate?
Pay your bills on time. go back, and if you have judgments against you, get those paid off. If you have outstanding debts on your credit report that have been turned in for collection, get those paid off, and it'll go up a little bit at a time.
Okay. If a property owner is deceased and there are several debts on the property and the property is sold at auction, what debts will be paid first? Caller from Kalkaska.
Typically, whether it's sold at auction or sold through one of us, the first thing that has to happen at closing is the title to the property needs to be cleared, and it's cleared by paying off existing debt against the property.
Okay.
That recorded debt against the property.
Caller from Saginaw. They looks like they are wondering about the right to refuse an assessor to come into your house and look in your house. How does that work exactly? Is that something a seller has the right or a buyer has the right to do?
I used to be one of those guys. That was
Which
my
one
first-
of those guys? The assessors
The
or the
assessor.
people
Well, yeah,
who
my
didn't
first job
want
out of college was with the local assessor's office. The assessor has by statute, the assessor doesn't have the right to enter your property. Nobody does. But the assessor has the right to ascertain answers to questions. They can question you, and you have the obligation to tell them the truth when they ask you how many bathrooms you have. Is your basement finished?
A Facebook question. Can you estimate how much home values have dropped overall since, say, 2004? I bought a house and it is just a shell under construction in 2004 for $40,000. I haven't touched it. Can I expect to lose 10 to 12% or more?
It really depends on the geographic area that you're in.
Okay.
Some markets, the Detroit metro area, Flint, Saginaw, dropped dramatically. We were dropping in central Michigan 2 to 3% a year. So it really, the answer to the question is have an appraisal done.
Mm-hmm. Caller from Mansalona, are there any benefits to a reverse mortgage?
I can't really speak to that. I mean, if you need the income and that's your only source, I certainly would think.
What is a reverse mortgage for people who may not know?
It's a way to take the equity out of your house and get money each month from that. It's certainly an option.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of you paying the bank's paying you on a monthly basis.
Okay. Caller from Otisville. Properties being sold $5,000 to $10,000. Oh, properties that are being sold for $5,000 to $10,000. Where could you get a list of those types of properties?
Local realtor. Any local realtor can go into their local MLS, multiple listing service, and pull those numbers up.
Okay. A caller from Sterling Heights. Mortgage company added to escrow for mortgage insurance. Why is it so high, and what does it cover? What is mortgage insurance, and why are the rates what they are, and what all does that entail? Go ahead.
Thanks. Mortgage insurance is insurance that the lender is charging because the buyer is buying with less than 20% down. So the lender is going to charge mortgage insurance. Insures the bank if there's a foreclosure or default in the mortgage. And quite honestly, the reason that the rates are so high is because there have been so many defaults in mortgages.
Okay, and it's another sign of the times,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, exactly.
Caller from Clarkston. Excuse me. What is the standard protocol for water? What do they test for? How do they test for radon? Would this be an assessment issue, or is that something that they would need to contact their attorney or about?
The protocol for water, like an inspection?
It sounds like
I'm not
it.
sure what they're meaning. Often a buyer, just as part of an inspection, would do a well and septic check. People don't typically do it like in the city, but they often would check water with a well and septic inspection. A lot of people do or don't do a radon test around here, but I'm seeing more people do that. Pest inspection, just like they do plumbing, heating, electrical, and structural. Just depends on what people want, but most people do, typical customary inspections.
Caller from Mount Pleasant wondering, are there any programs available for first-time home buyers? They said this question is for Randy.
This is Stump the Realtor. There are always a number of programs available. There's a program right now through MISTA that gives back $3,000 to a first-time home buyer. Credits it, as I understand it, to their down payment and closing cost. That's relatively new out of the chute.
Caller from Sheboygan, mother and father are deceased. The inheritance went to the two brothers and the nephews on the deed. Is that legal? Sounds like some inheritance monies went to people who were on the deed of the property. Is that something you all can answer, or is that something they would need to consult an attorney?
If they were on the deed, if the property were deeded to them through the estate, they'd be entitled to the proceeds from the sale of the real estate. As far as the rest of the estate, no idea.
Something they should probably consult an attorney about. Okay. A caller from Inkster. They are underwater on their mortgage. How do I sell my house? Is a deed in lien better than foreclosure? Some tough questions, some tough circumstances. What would you suggest this viewer do?
I'd first encourage them to have a realtor do a market analysis, because you know foreclosure's ideally your last option. Short sales may be an option, but a realtor could tell them what they could expect to sell it for, and then they can make decisions from there.
You know, Sarah, really, and in that situation, contact your lender. Contact the bank that you have your mortgage with, the mortgage company that you have your mortgage with. Talk with them. Tell them what's going on in your life, why you can't make the payments.
Sometimes a letter of appeal.
And see what their suggestions are.
That's good advice, and I've heard cases of a letter of appeal where lending companies take circumstances into consideration. Okay, wonderful. A caller from Kingston, when you have a quitclaim deed, should property taxes be lowered? We talked about the quitclaim as opposed to quitclaim deed a little while ago. Should your property taxes be lowered if you have one of those?
No, that has no bearing on property taxes. Property taxes are based on the market value of your property.
Okay. Caller from Ludington, home value and land values in close proximity to wind turbines. Is there a loss in value of home or land? Another hot topic.
Yes. Boy, I'll tell you, my answer would be too early to tell. I don't.
Any thoughts, Robin?
It could create economic obsolescence on the property.
Okay. Caller from Kalkaska, if someone has a lawsuit against me and wins, can they put a lien on my real estate?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Is there anything
If the court will allow it.
Is there anything that they can do to protect that real estate, or is that not something they should do?
Their attorney would advise them.
Okay.
Or ask the lawyers tomorrow night.
In a few weeks, yes. A tweet came in, what's in store for Michigan's second home vacation market in 2013? Something that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering although it doesn't feel like it tonight, the summer months fast approach.
Well, it's been devastated since, 2006, 2007. And when it comes back, we're watching just like everybody else.
Caller from Holly, what do they test for when they do a water test? We kind of touched on this earlier. If you'd like to reiterate your answer, you said it's pretty standard.
Well, it depends. For one thing, for the bank or for the buyer, it depends on what you're looking for, and different loans require different things. Like an FHA and rural development loan would be a test that tests for even more. Like some would E. coli, for instance, and just different things. Depends on what all you're testing for. Some are more extensive than others. Make sure the groundwater or the water's safe in the well, for instance.
What they're testing for will depend a lot on the lab that they send it to. Some labs do a very extensive screening. Other labs test for a couple of items.
I'm wondering about in this current market and what type of advice you give to people who are preparing to sell their home. Are there simple and cost-effective upgrades that they can do to sort of up the value when they're considering selling? What type of advice would you give to sellers?
Good.
Tell them to prepare their house like the kind of things that they look for, to have it looking nice, to have it cleaned out. I tell everybody if my house were to go on the market, I'd probably rent a storage place to just get all the junk out, for instance. If there are things that are in poor repair, fix those things. You know, if you're, a lot of people are into staging their property, which is good advice. But, if you don't have the money to do that, just have it neat and clean and get the junk put away and make the repairs that the inspector is going to suggest. And, you don't have to spend a fortune, but just have it looking good and not falling apart.
Yeah, really, Sarah, you gave the answer, simple and cost effective.
Whatever can be done, go ahead and do
Within
it.
your budget.
Are there certain rooms that a person should concentrate on?
I think it,
Like upgrading bathroom fixtures or anything like that?
Robin and I have both done this for a long time, and years ago, you'd go through homes and some were in better shape than others. And today, I mean, she mentioned the word staging. Just about every house that you're showing is showing ready today. The market is so competitive. There are so many properties out there, and sellers are so anxious to sell that it really, people have their homes showing ready today.
We have time for just a couple of more questions, just about a minute and a half left. Caller from Traverse City was a homeowner with a husband. He is deceased for over 10 years. Could she be a first-time home buyer? It sounds like they purchased a home together, but he's been gone for quite a few years, and she's wondering, can she be a first-time home buyer? How does that work?
And I'm assuming that she doesn't own a home now.
It sounds like that, yeah.
Do you know the mission program? I think it's 3 years, isn't it?
I'm thinking, I don't know the number, but I'm not sure.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, and it's either, with the Mishnah program that's out, it's either 3 or 4 years since you've owned.
Well, believe it or not, we are
so.
out of time.
Sorry.
On that note, no, you've
We
been
delayed
wonderful.
long.
Yeah.
You've been wonderful. Thanks so much for your input tonight.
Sure.
We've been talking to Randy Golden, Remax with Remax of Mount Pleasant Incorporated. Randy, thanks for your input and your answers this evening. And Robin Strussman, Coldwell Banker, Mount Pleasant Realty and Associates. Thanks so much for your presence here this evening. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. As always, you can tune in next week for an all-new Ask the Nutritionists and visit our website for more information, WCMU.org. For all of us here at WCMU, I'm Sarah Adams. Good night.